This is the Omega Speedmaster Professional, and there's a simple question. Is this, pound for pound, the best watch ever made? Unquestionably, it's one of the most iconic and talked about watches of all time. And back in 2021, it got a mild redesign, resulting in the watch you see here, the most technically advanced Speedmaster Professional ever. But how good is it, and how does it stack up to the competition? In this video, we'll look at why it's so iconic, discuss its specs, and see how it wears, all to see if it's a worthy contender for the greatest watch of all time. Okay, so quick history lesson. I'm not going to discuss every aspect of the Speedmaster range since 1957, but in a nutshell, the Speedmaster was chosen by NASA to become standard issue equipment for all astronauts on the Apollo program. A few watches were considered, but ultimately the Speedmaster won out. Features such as its plastic hesalite crystal, which unlike Sapphire wouldn't shatter and float about the confines of a spacecraft should it break, plus its overall legibility, toughness and accuracy made it great for space travel. So off the Speedmaster went, used on 6 Apollo missions. It orbited the Earth, the Moon, been on spacewalks, saved the life of Apollo 13's crew, and of course was worn on the lunar surface. The Moonwatch was born, something that Omega will never let us forget. And you know what? Rightly so. The watch is a pretty big deal. The timekeeper chosen to accompany mankind's greatest ever exploration, and maybe greatest achievement. This alone is enough for some people to consider the Speedmaster the greatest watch of all time. But how does the Speedmaster stack up? Not against the vacuum of space, but as a day-to-day timekeeper here on Earth. The modern day Speedmaster is available with a hesalite plastic crystal like the originals, or a more modern sapphire option. This video will focus on the latter, known as the Sapphire sandwich, featuring sapphire crystals on the front and back. So this latest iteration of the Speedmaster comes in with a dimension of 42mm, a thickness of 13.4mm, and a lug-to-lug of 47.1mm. It has a lug width of 20mm. The weight, including this leather strap, is 93 grams. The overall design of the Speedmaster's case is asymmetrical, featuring a built-in shear guard on the right-hand side. This protects the chronograph pushers and crown from impacts, but does somewhat distort the wearing experience. The watch is marketed as a 42mm watch, which technically from one side to the other it is, but it certainly doesn't wear like one. The dimension across the watch from top to bottom is only 39.6mm. I guess it's a bit like measuring a Rolex Submariner across its case, but also including the crown guards. Like the Speedmaster, they're only on one side and there for protection. They just don't extend all the way down the side of the case. To me, the Speedmaster should be considered a 39 to 40mm watch, like the originals from the 50s, especially considering its reserved lug-to-lug dimension, making it wear like a dream on a smaller wrist, unlike some true 42mm watches. The overall design pays homage to the original Speedmasters, but is mixed with more modern aesthetics shared with other Omega models. The case features sweeping, curvaceous lug profiles with inward and outward facing bevels. We have a mix of brushed and high polished surfaces that accentuate the overall design of the case. The design is made up of various facets and sections, helping the watch to wear well on a variety of wrist sizes. The mid-case section is only 4mm thick and features a brushed finish. The bezel section steps in, creating a circular recess around the entire watch. This is all of high polish leading up to the bezel lip. This section has a height of around 3.4mm, sitting below 2mm of visible crystal. The last 4mm is made up of the case back, making up the entire 13.4mm height, which for a chronograph isn't overly thick. Finally, we have 2 chronograph pushers at the 2 and 4 o'clock positions and a crown at 3, all of which are recessed into the shear guard. We have a fixed bezel with an insert made from black anodized aluminium that sits within the wider bezel structure. This results in a ring of high polished steel protecting the insert edge. This is very reminiscent of the newly redesigned Rolex Daytona. Wonder where Rolex's inspiration came from for that. All of the bezel markings are silver in colour, featuring a full tachymeter scale that can be used for calculating the speed of an object over a set distance. Being aluminium, the bezel will be susceptible to scratching. However, the steel edge and heavily domed crystal do offer some knock protection. One standout design feature is the inclusion of the famous dot over 90 marking, a nod to the early Speedmaster models. When it comes to the crystal, on this model we have a heavily domed sapphire. Visually, the sapphire crystal looks very similar to the hesalite one found on the standard Speedmaster variant. I totally get the advantages of a plastic non-shattering crystal for space flights, but what about day to day? I'm definitely of the opinion that the sapphire version is the one to go for. Less romantic? Sure. More practical on Earth? 100%. The crown is a standard push-pull setup. It's made from steel, all of high polish, and features a raised Omega logo. Its teeth are prominent and easy to grip. In its default position, flat against the case, you can wind the watch. It takes around 50 turns to fully wind from empty, and it's notable you need significant force to turn it. You'll need to do this every 50 hours or so. Remember, the Speedmaster is not an automatic watch. When the crown is pulled out to its second position, you can hack the movement and set the time. Not being screwed down and the fact we have pushers above and below means the watch is only rated for 50 meters of water resistance. This is probably the only factor that may put some people off choosing this as a one watch collection or a daily wear. 50 meters is better than most dress watches, but not really at the level of a true sports watch. The fact that the crown and pushers are not screwed down would definitely make me think twice about swimming with the watch on. Speaking of the pushers, both are made from steel and highly polished. The top pusher starts and stops the chronograph, with the bottom one used to reset. The action is firm and crisp with very little play or jump in the seconds hand. This is not always the case with a lateral clutch like we have here. When it comes to the dial, we have the iconic monotone setup that the Speedmaster is known for. We have a matte black base with white markings. All of the indices are printed and feature prominent green loom. The edge of the dial base slopes downwards towards the edge and features a half-minute track for precise time and chronograph reading. 2 loom circles can be found either side of the 12 o'clock marker for easier visual orientation. Handy in 0G. Again, unique to the Sapphire variant, we have an applied polished Omega logo below 12. This is printed on the hesalite version. Below this we have text, again printed in white. We have the words Omega, Speedmaster and Professional, each in their own unique typeface. The only other dial text is found at the very bottom with the word Swiss made just being visible, again in white. As this is a chronograph, we have a standard 3 sub-dial setup. On the left we have running seconds. This is actually the main seconds hand for the watch and can be hacked by pulling out the crown. This seconds display will always be running even if the chronograph is not being used. The main seconds hand acts as chronograph seconds, so this will always be still until you start the chronograph function. It's important to note it's not recommended to leave the chronograph seconds hand running 24/7. As the movement uses a lateral chronograph clutch, it can cause undue wear and tear if always left active, unlike a movement with a vertical clutch. This is simply a characteristic of this type of chronograph. It's really not a deal breaker. But I guess having the main seconds hand running 24/7 would look better aesthetically, making it easier to read passing seconds. Chronograph minutes can be read using the sub-dial on the right, with hours taken care of by the dial at 6. The watch features a 30-minute register. All of the markings are in white, however none of the sub-dials are loomed. The hands are made of steel and painted white, continuing the monotone theme. The hour, minute and center chronograph seconds hand all feature the same green loom as the indices. We have the classic thin style hour and minute hands along with the traditional arrow style chronograph seconds. When looking from a shallow angle, you can see that the tip of the minute hand is actually curved downwards, following the curve of the dial. This is to counteract parallax, allowing for precise time reading. The caseback is another area we see significant differences between the hesalite and Sapphire versions of the watch. This being the Sapphire version, we get a see-through exhibition caseback made from the same crystal as the face. The hesalite version features a solid steel caseback with engravings. Again, I know the hesalite version is more true to history, but the view through the back of the Sapphire caseback is incredible. Because the watch is manually wound, there's no rotor, leaving a totally unobstructed view of the movements. Even if you only have a passing interest in horology and watch mechanics, you can't not be impressed by what you see. Every single piece seems to be on display. It's unquestionably the best view of a movement this side of a Langer or a Patek. It's genuinely sensational, and alone worthy of the premium over the standard hesalite version. The edge of the caseback is made of steel, it's screwed down and of high polish. Around its edge we have engravings that read the first watch worn on the moon, coaxial and master chronometer. Finally, we can see notches that are used for friction when opening the caseback with the tool. The underside of the case itself is of satin finish and features various engravings such as the serial number and material. This particular example comes on the black calfskin leather strap. It's smooth in finish and features a black monotone stitch. Personally, this is the setup I'd buy. Sapphire sandwich on leather. The leather strap just gives a more vintage vibe and better reflects the early watches used by NASA. That's actually bad advice. I'd actually buy the watch on a bracelet and then put it on a leather strap. This will save you a shed load of cash if you ever feel like wearing it on a bracelet. To buy it after the fact is expensive. This OEM Omega strap comes in 2 pieces, one at 95mm long and the other at 105. The longer piece features 7 adjustment positions, both sections featuring embossed Omega logos on the underside. It's also notable to mention that the watch also wears and looks great on a NATO strap. This is officially how astronauts would wear the watch. Omega used to supply one with older versions, but no longer do. If you want that full NASA experience, a NATO is definitely the way to go. On leather, the Speedmaster is supplied with a steel deploying clasp. It's made from thick gauge steel and features a predominantly all satin finish. The only exceptions are the twin triggers of the release lock and the raised Omega logo. The reverse side of the clasp has the engravings Omega and stainless steel. A nice design feature of the clasp is that excess strap length slides through the underside, meaning it can't be seen when on wrist, and negates the need for any minder loops. That being said, if you have a smaller wrist like myself and as such have a fair bit of excess strap underneath, over time it will move to one side, becoming visible. I really wish that Omega would include a guide rail or extra teeth to keep the strap in place. Powering the Speedmaster is the Omega 3861 manual movement. It's an all-new design with a host of modern features. It is, however, still distantly related to the Lemania-based movement used in the original. We have a 50-hour power reserve, a free-sprung balance for shock protection, and a silicon hairspring for anti-magnetism. Other specs include a lateral clutch, 26 joules, and a beat rate of 21,500 vibrations per hour, or 3 Hz. Like all modern Omegas, it's been upgraded to feature the coaxial escapement, probably the single biggest improvement to watch mechanics over the past 100 years. It's an improvement of the Swiss lever escapement and designed by legendary watchmaker George Daniels. It basically reduces friction within the escapement, leading to less wear and tear, longer service intervals, and improved timekeeping. Finally, the movement is METAS certified, hence the master chronometer status. To become METAS certified, the watch must go through more vigorous testing as a fully cased up watch, testing things like water resistance, power reserve, shock, and anti-magnetism. It's tested in 6 positions to exceed the regular COSC certification of -4 to +6 seconds per day. So, as I alluded to earlier, the Speedmaster wears fantastic on wrist, especially on the leather strap. It definitely wears closer to a 39 or 40mm watch compared to a 42. Here you can see the watch on my 6.5-inch wrist against a selection of other watches for comparison. On the left we have a Breitling Navitimer B01. It has a diameter of 43mm, a thickness of 13.6mm, and a lug-to-lug of 49mm. On the right we have a Tudor Black Bay 58. It has a diameter of 39mm, a thickness of 11.9mm, and a lug-to-lug of 47mm. You can see against the Tudor it wears similar in overall dimensions, so definitely more compact than 42mm would suggest. Against the Breitling you can also see it wears well in terms of its thickness, resulting in a very wearable timepiece. The entry-level hesalite version of the Speedmaster starts at £6,200 on a nylon strap, rising to £6,600 on a steel bracelet. The Sapphire version commands a £1,000 premium for both strap options, starting at £7,200 on leather and £7,500 on the bracelets. If you'd like a Speedmaster made of exotic materials, then Omega has you covered, although the prices are insane. Remember, the movement is identical in all variants. Solid gold versions are priced from £39,300 and a platinum version is available for a truly ridiculous £51,100. So on to 5 not so good things about the Omega Speedmaster Professional. The crown action when winding the movement feels overly firm. With sharp milled teeth, the friction on your fingers is actually quite harsh, especially when winding it from empty. With the water resistance only being 50 meters and no screw down crown or pushers, it limits the watch as being a true daily wear in my opinion. To be able to comfortably swim in it, or at least not worry too much about it getting wet, would massively elevate it to being a true one-watch consideration. The aluminium bezel insert is susceptible to scratching. Again, not ideal on a watch you may wear daily. For the price, a ceramic bezel really should be included. It is 2023 after all. This is personal preference, but if you're looking for a watch that you can just set and forget, this isn't it. It will need to be wound by hand every other day. Finally, and specific to the leather strap option, a better solution for excess strap length should be developed. An extra pin or guide rail on the underside of the clasp would help no end, creating a more polished experience. So what about all that's good? The overall look. The Speedmaster's monotone design is iconic. It's obviously vintage inspired, but still looks incredible in 2023. It goes well with practically any outfit, from shorts and t-shirt to black tie and tux. The movement is technically and visually incredible. The inclusion of the coaxial escapement and METAS certification result in a strong, dependable timekeeper, with the view through the caseback being nothing short of sensational. The watch looks fantastic on a wide range of straps. The bracelet looks great, but I really feel it shines on a leather or a NATO. The watch's monotone aesthetic means that basically any colour strap looks incredible. Definitely check out Omega's website for seemingly infinite examples. Wearability. The overall dimensions of the Speedmaster are spot on. Regardless of wrist size, this will wear like a dream. If you have smaller wrists, don't be put off by the claimed 42mm diameter. Almost anyone can apply. History. The watch is simply an icon. It's a joy just to appreciate. Coupled with a modern movement and a wearable dimension set, the entire package is close to being perfect. So what's the verdict on the Omega Speedmaster Professional? Does it have a case for being considered the best watch ever made? Well, yes and no. It depends how you look at it. If you've got your romantic head on, then yes, absolutely. I can't think of many other watches that have a backstory in history like this one. The word icon is thrown around way too much, but this really is an icon of the watch world. And if you love watches, their history and what they stand for, especially if you have an interest in aeronautics, then it's a no-brainer. You should absolutely have one in your collection at some point. As out and out the best watch in 2023, especially as a daily wear, I wouldn't say it's technically the best. The power reserve and water resistance are lacking compared to some modern sports watches. The bezel, being aluminium, is prone to scratching, and the lack of vertical clutch means you can't use the seconds hand full time. These are small nuances though, and I guess give the watch character, but as a daily wear, I'd say a Rolex Daytona is slightly superior. That being said, Omega do actually have an answer. The Ed White, a special edition Speedmaster that more closely resembles the first iterations of the watch and fixes the majority of these nuances. It's more expensive though at around £14,000, but combines all of the iconic history and design with more robust, earth-friendly features. It elevates the entire Speedmaster package and might just be, pound for pound, the best watch on planet Earth. Guys, thank you so much for watching. What are your thoughts on the Omega Speedmaster Professional? Do you think it deserves consideration as the best watch of all time? Would you buy one and wear it day in and day out, or is it just a tick box in a collection? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you like this video, please be sure to like, subscribe and hit the bell icon so you don't miss the next review, and we'll catch you in the next video.